Uh, hopefully nobody joins right now. That'd be kind of awkward. That would be so awkward. Oh my goodness, we are live. Welcome in, everybody. So thank you to everybody that showed up to the game today. It was an awesome crowd. Now that Banana Ball's out of town, uh, Tag or Dalen actually, yeah, where were you this morning, kiddo? Because you were not at the baseball game.
Somewhere.
You were
I
somewhere,
was
yeah,
I was
not sleeping.
studying.
Oh, you were studying.
Yeah, actually.
Yeah, studying what? How to make ice cream.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Well, certainly a much better game than the ones that we saw on Saturday. A&M takes the third game against Auburn and salvages the series. They win 4-3. Was kind of a really kind of non-stressful. Just it was a good game through eight, and then we kind of decided to put the game on ice. We didn't put it on ice till the game was actually over because Auburn had the bases loaded with one out. I think they did right. They had the
hmm
bases loaded with one out. Yeah, um, made it scary at the end. I guess we kind of have to start, or before we get into that, how about you guys just kind of talk about what today meant after Saturday and how you feel about the team now.
I mean, it's natural. Get blown out, run ruled in the game one of the doubleheader yesterday, and you lose game two. So you're not feeling great, especially with Petrovic being 7-1 on the year. Like you just natural. But today was huge. I mean, you bounced back as best you could. Got great innings out of obviously great innings out of Moss. That's just the easy answer to say with six and a third of no hit innings, no hit baseball. But today was massive. Not just for vibes going into next week, but for the SEC standings. You're in second place. You're in second place still, losing two out of three.
Yeah, and winning today means you don't have to like win out the other two series to get a top 8 seed. So it means a lot for postseason play as well.
We have two chats already. Thank you so much, Noble Guy. One decent start away from having a really good series, but great job, Moss. Yeah, that's a good point. Like we talked about it yesterday, like Aiden wasn't perfect, but he was still good enough. But really, it was Friday night. Hi Ty, what's up, man? Um, yeah, Friday was or the first game was kind of the problem. And then he also said we got some massive beef with the A&M athletics department for scheduling fake baseball same weekend as SEC home weekends for both baseball and softball teams. So Banana Ball, we're kind of on their schedule. Like
Mhm.
it's not really up to A&M when that game was played. It's Banana Ball's schedule. I don't have very many positive thoughts about Banana Ball. It's not my favorite thing in the world. But I mean, basically, this was going to have to happen. Banana Ball was going to have to happen this weekend, or it wasn't going to happen at all. But bat and ball, A&M bat and ball sports went 0-4 with Banana Ball in town. Um, Off of Weston Moss, obviously you mentioned Tag. He went 6.1 innings today. Gave up only one hit, one run, struck out six, and he was credited with the win. His last. Thank you, Addison. And then he was good though. He's been good for 3 weeks straight, or you could even argue 4 weeks straight. Um, Obviously didn't pitch at Texas against Texas, but he was really good, I think, against Vanderbilt. And then at LSU, he went 4.1, gave up 3 hits and no earned runs, still struck out five. At Florida, he went 4 innings, gave up 4 hits and one earned run, and struck out two. And then today, obviously, his best outing of the year is he went six scoreless, didn't give up a single hit. The only base runner that Auburn had today before the hit was it was a strikeout, and the ball got, I don't know whose fault I couldn't remember. It just got away from Bear, and the guy reached on a strikeout. So yeah, we talked about it yesterday, but I think you guys said Weston had to get you through probably a minimum of 4 innings, and only giving up a couple of runs, and he went six.
Yeah, four was the baseline based on the previous three, four outings. He's obviously capable of going further, like we saw today. But yeah, I mean, it was textbook what you needed for your saved what you had left of that bullpen until the end. Even though it got real intense towards the bottom of the ninth.
He's also making a strong case to be the Friday starter if they want to change up the rotation.
Do you think now this is something we can get into a little bit later? Um, but obviously, I think I've heard some people throw the idea around of just generally changing up what you're doing with Shane. Whether that looks like moving him out of the Fridays spot or taking him out of the starting rotation completely. If you take him out of the starting rotation, the only pitcher I think that you can reasonably bring into a starter role, especially on a Friday night, is Gavin Lyons. Do you guys disagree?
No, I completely agree with that. With the one person out of the pen that I think could start, although Darden did start at Clemson a few games, but Lyons has been well towards the beginning of the year he was the midweek starter, so he has experience of starting games. So I don't think that's the problem. It's will they take Shane out of the rotation, which being completely honest, don't see that happening.
You could put him in what currently is Weston Moss' role as a TBA guy, and if you don't use him out of the pen, then you make him your Sunday starter if you
Sunday
want to
starter,
do
yeah.
that.
I agree with that. Okay, so I kind of have a little stat summary here of the weekend. Um, and it's pretty telling when you are wondering what happened to A&M this weekend. Auburn out hit you 35-18. Uh, they had Auburn batted 327 as a team this weekend. Obviously, that's inflated because of that first game where they batted 500 in the first game, which is pretty unheard of in conference play. A&M batted 200 as a team. Auburn had 10 ex. This is the interesting part. So Auburn had 10 extra base hits. A&M had nine. Auburn had six home runs. A&M had five. But where it was, I think the damage was done was when when Auburn hit a home run, they had guys on base, and they also killed you with a lot of singles. Like Auburn drove in 25 runs, and you only drove in 12. And so that was kind of the walks are even at eight. Uh, Everything else is pretty even, but they kind of killed you with just singles. I mean, they hit a lot of singles.
Those are the free passes and the singles that happened in game one that really inflates the hitting numbers from the series. But after what was it, the fifth inning of game one, it was all the numbers were very even across the board, which is why you saw two very competitive games in game two and game three of the series. But quality of at bats were great on both sides. Like I mean, it was just a very quality series overall, except for the first 4 innings of it.
Do you have anything, Dalen? I was going to go through. Actually, I had a couple of comments, and then I was going to go through kind of just our lineup for the weekend. But do you have anything about that? Okay.
Nope.
Ty is asking about Partita, and he wants Gavin back at first. I think, look, if you watched the game today, uh, Gavin is obviously an outstanding third baseman, and he made some pretty great plays at third base today, and yes, and in the second game yesterday. So it's to me, it's not you're not really missing Partita as a defender because Blake Bender up at first base is not Gavin Grahovac at first base, but he can get it done. You miss Partita in the lineup, like as a hitter. That's where you miss him. But no, I mean the team has said absolutely nothing about Partita, so we don't know anything. I didn't even I wasn't paying attention. I didn't see him today. I don't know if you guys saw him today. But I think we would all anticipate that he's definitely not gonna play on Tuesday, and probably not gonna play this next weekend.
I agree with that, and to some degree, it's like why even if he's not 100%, why run him out there? Obviously, these following two series are crucial, but we would just all agree that it's a lock for a playoff for the postseason. Just whether that's at home, whether that's well, you would assume it's at home, but whether that's top eight national seed, whether that's you're going on a away super regional, but you want your guys playing that are fully healthy. And I think Early's going to do a great job. We're probably not going to get an update. We're probably just going to hear that he's probably out, or we're not going to get much detail on this injury until he's ready to go. Like that's just it's gamesmanship for Ole Miss. Like they're like, oh, maybe he'll be listed as questionable. I guarantee you.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Um, but we don't know the severity of it.
And then we'll get into one more comment before I get into because I just wanted to go over the lineup, A&M's lineup this weekend to kind of talk about where the bright spots were and where we struggled. But yeah, so we have a comment again from Noble Guy. He says, don't know if they'll make a change to the starting rotation during the regular season, but serious consideration for Sims to be the Friday starter needs to be had, obviously. And then, like, he's talking about how a loser's bracket would be tough for us. And I think we talked about this yesterday, but where you worry about A&M in the postseason is if you have to play an extra game or two in the regional, where you have to play back to back to back to back games, like in those, like you don't get a day to stop like you would in Omaha or something. Like you have to play the games day after day after day after day. And with the thin bullpen, that's a really, really tough ask.
Yeah, we talked about it that this team is more vulnerable to lose in a regional than super just because of that. Like you could very well play 5 games in a regional. That's if your plan doesn't work out, and that's really taxing on a bullpen that you have a lot of questions about.
Yeah, and I think you have to play a double header one day if you're in a loser's bracket, so
Yeah,
that's even worse.
that's true. Who would that fourth? I mean, who would that? So let's say you have to play 4 games in your regional. God forbid you have to, because you can play five, right?
Yeah.
In a regional. Yeah. So God forbid you have to play five. Well, let's talk about four first. Like, who are you rolling out as a starter in that fourth spot?
Well, the question is, how do you approach game one if you're the one seed? I mean, you could do it how we do on Tuesdays. You could very possibly see that, or you fire with your guns. You go Shane game one against Tarleton, like the projection had, um, or you go Gavin Lyons. I could see that very possibly too. But you gotta think that you're not using Sims until you have to. Like either if you lose the first game, hypothetically you use him then, or if you're in the 1-0 game, you use him then for sure. Um, it's just above my pay grade, I would say.
Yeah. So getting into the lineup from this weekend, I'll kind of go through everybody quickly. Um, Gavin was good. He went 3 for 12. Hit 2 home runs. Obviously, his 2 home runs in that first game were going to go completely under the radar because Auburn scored 18 freaking runs. So that's going to go under the radar. Caden Sorrell was 4 for 12. He also had a homer. Chris Akopian was 2 for 10. Wesley Jordan made an appearance, but he was 0 for 1. I think the biggest kind of not highlight, low light, I guess, was Jake Dewar was 0 for 11 on the weekend. He had some better. I think we talked about it. Like he hit a ball pretty hard at somebody today. His at bats were better today, but he looked pretty rough on Saturday in both games. So that's not going to help. Partita was 0 for 3 before he got hurt. Blake Benderup was in the game. Obviously, he went 1 for 7. Bear Harrison 3 for 8. Um, Jorian Wilson was 2 for 8. He had a homer in that first game. I think he was the one who scored. Was that our first run in that first game? Was his homer? It was either him or Caden.
Yeah, it was a 2-run homer, wasn't it?
I think so. Yeah, and then Travis Chestnut came in. He was 1 for 6 on the weekend, but he had his hit was that huge triple in game two to cut the lead to two. Sawyer Farfer was 1 for 3. Boston Kellner again. This is another one. This is a guy that like you've seen done a really really good job of just getting on base. He's really good at walking, and he was 1 for 8. I'll look up how many walks he had later, but so as a team, you went 18 for 90 this weekend. You've added 200. So that's just, I mean, you have to give credit to Auburn, obviously, but not good enough.
Correct. I mean, batting 200 and you did salvage the series, and you were in game two. Like you were right there. Chris's ball lands fair. We're all we're not talking about this, but 200 against that staff. I mean, I guarantee you, if I had to guess, we batted 300 against Texas's staff. Um, but or like high 200s. But if you're trying to win a series in the SEC, batting 200 won't do it.
It doesn't help when your 3 and 4 hole go a combined 2 for 21 against the top staff in the country, and the bottom of the lineup doesn't like step up to fill that gap that was there.
And your lineup is switched up, and new guys are kind of trying to have to step up after. Because when Partita goes down, it's like, it's not just a plug in somebody else, it's like a bunch of things changed, and that matters too. Um, how much? Oh, did you want to say something, Tag?
Yeah, I was
Okay,
just
go
gonna
for it.
say, and it also doesn't help that you could see Chris is very limited. Like
Yeah,
he's going to be the DH for I'd say another week or two, because you could see when he hit a ground ball in the infield, there was no point of running it out. There's no point of risking injury. He's not 100%, but when he does barrel the ball like we saw in the what was it the sixth inning? Yeah, it was sixth inning. It still plays like his bat's very good. So you're not taking that out of the lineup.
going through, just looking at the box score of the game today, like Dalen did. Um, you kind of didn't. I think one of the another big difference was, yes, Auburn destroyed you in game one with which just how much slug and how much damage they did with people on base. But you didn't give Auburn anything until the ninth inning in this game, which you had a ton of defensive miscues, whether they were errors or not. In the first two games, you had a lot of error just issues defensively. And in this game, Auburn obviously is shut out until the seventh inning, where their first run was scored in the seventh, and then they put up two in the ninth. And kind of some of those defensive miscues showed up again in the ninth, and that's why it was such a nail biter. But to me, like obviously Weston Moss was the game changer today. Also, Chris Akopian, shout out. Yes, Chris Akopian's limited, but he drove in every single run that we scored today. So shout out to Chris. Um, but yeah, I mean, I think the biggest difference for me, besides you shut down Auburn finally today, was that like defensively, you just didn't give them anything. You got it. Cool. Okay. So after this series, after the win today, A&M sitting at 8 in the RPI. Um, the couple SEC teams ahead of you. This is actually. I mean, I don't know. Alabama's had a pretty tough schedule. Alabama's up to 5 in the RPI. Auburn is fourth, and then Texas is sitting right above them. They won their series against Mississippi State today. So Texas is at 3. So again, we talked about before this, like if you took 2 of 3 against Auburn, you were in a really good spot to be that national seed. But now it's kind of going to be a nail biter in the last two series to see if you're able to secure that. Um, but you absolutely have to win one of the next two series and not get swept in the other. Obviously are an absolute lock if you win the next two series, but at a minimum, you have to win one of the next two.
Yes, you could. If you win three games out of the next six, you're like sweating that selection Sunday if you're going to be a top eight seed. But if you win these next two series, or if you win four out of six, if you could sweep one of them, which I don't know if that's going to happen, but if you hypothetically do sweep one of these teams and you lose the series but win one, I think you're still feeling great about your odds of hosting all until till Omaha.
And as long as we stay in the top 10 in the RPI, I think we should be fine for national seeds.
And then I'm trying to find Ole Miss on the RPI because that's who you're at. You're in Oxford playing Ole Miss this weekend. Ole Miss, yeah. So Ole Miss is 13th in the RPI, and then you finish with Mississippi State at home. They're at ninth in the RPI. They actually went up. They only took one game against Texas, but obviously a top three RPI team. Mississippi State shot up. So plenty of opportunities. You're up again. I like what you guys said. You're sweating if you win three games, but your RPI is not going to move very much the rest of the season because the lowest, obviously, you have a Tuesday game against Prairie View, but SEC competition wise, you're playing the lowest rated RPI team is Ole Miss, and they're at 13th. Do you guys have anything else kind of about the series that you want to talk about before we just kind of get into the conference? Feel good?
Yeah, we're good.
Okay. So, looking at some of the final results today, Georgia swept Missouri. There's a run rule today. Did they run rule them yesterday too?
I believe so.
Yeah. We talked about that. Like if A&M was able to take the series against Auburn, you're still looking at a race to win the regular season conference. That path, it is still technically possible, but uh, probably a lot. It looks like Georgia's kind of gonna run their way to the regular season title.
Hmm.
Um, in the conference standings themselves, obviously Georgia's 18-6, A&M's in second place at 15-8, Texas is in third place at 14-8, and then Mississippi State's at 14-9, and Auburn is 14-10 in conference play. So those are kind of your top five in the conference. Um, Georgia with a three game lead though. So something pretty crazy is going to happen for them not to win the regular season conference.
Yeah,
Um,
like we just said, Georgia seems like they've got like if they handle business, they got at LSU at home and then at Auburn, which will be a very good series to end the year. However, LSU right now, even though they just swept South Carolina, three out of their what is it, nine conference games or wins just came this weekend. So, it's a very talented roster as LSU always will be. It's just not the teams you're or the level of competition you're used to seeing when you play LSU this year. Plus, they get them at home. It's going to happen. So, realistically, now it's the double bye for the SEC tournament. What the battle is. Um, and if you're A&M, you feel great because if you control your own destiny. If you win four out of six, you're for sure top three. Texas plays at Tennessee, and they get to finish the year with Missouri, which we all expect at home. We all expect Texas to sweep Missouri. So it's all depending on this coming weekend at Knoxville um, to see where everything lines up because they have the tiebreaker now over Mississippi State. So, and due to the Lone Star Showdown not getting game three not getting played, they're a game and a half up on Mississippi State and Auburn.
I don't want to make jokes about Missouri not being able to beat people in the state of Texas just because, last year. So don't Missouri. We could talk about. I think Missouri. Yeah, we already said Missouri. They got swept at Georgia. They were competitive in the first game. Um, weren't there in the second two. Missouri is like a better team than last year, though. I would say. I mean, they've passed their conference win total a few weeks ago, like from like the season before. Um, that's a pretty tough head coaching job to be the head coach in Missouri in college baseball. Um, Texas is at Tennessee. Tennessee salvaged game three against Kentucky. They took game three 10-9. I'm pretty sure Kentucky won the first two games like pretty convincingly, right? I know they
Yes.
won the second one by a lot, but or the first one by a lot. Um, we watched a little bit of Mississippi State, Texas. Mississippi State put up five in the first inning, up 5-0, feeling really good. They hit a grand slam, and then Texas had. I don't actually tag. When did they have the big inning?
It was the third, bottom of the third, and when we were watching it in the stadium, they had 8 runs with 0 outs in the third inning.
Yeah, that's going to win you a lot of games in this conference. So Texas takes the rubber match. They win game three, 11-6. They are 5-0 in series at home this year. And they win another conference series after the series. They've only lost to us, right, in conference play?
Yes.
Correct.
Yeah, okay. Florida run ruled Oklahoma in game three to take that series. That was another rubber match. I think did Oklahoma won the first game? I'm pretty
Walk off
sure.
game one.
Yeah, so Oklahoma walked off in the first game, and then Florida stormed back to win the next two. Florida, we talked about them obviously a little bit after we played them. They have a higher win percentage on the road than they do at home. So if you're Florida, like for their postseason stuff, like wouldn't you kind of rather want to be? I mean, you want to host in the postseason, but they're better on the road than they are at home. So maybe they're better off as a really scary two seed somewhere.
Yes, they are better on the road. However, like when you're hosting a regional, you're going to have a way bigger turnout than at least what we've seen the last couple weekends in Gainesville. It's not been. We joke around with Texas not having people at their stadium, but Florida's right up there with them with attendance wise. So, um, yeah, numbers don't numbers are very accurate, but you still want to be at home.
We have a comment from Jonathan. I actually did not watch. I don't know if you guys have. I haven't watched Early's post game after the loss. If he said something about Nico, comment like tell us what he said. I haven't watched it yet. I was gonna watch it after this. But yeah, I haven't heard anything. Um, LSU finally won an SEC series. They had lost three straight. Not only lost three straight, they had been swept 3 weeks in a row, which has never happened in the history of LSU baseball. They had been swept. They had been swept 3 weekends in a row before they swept South Carolina. So let's see. LSU is now sitting at 9 conference wins, and they're at Georgia. And I don't know what their last series is, but they could still technically make the tournament. But it's kind of rough when you have to go to Georgia.
What is it? You would have to win both series to end the year, and then make a run in Hoover. You get to 13 conference wins, and then win a couple games in Hoover. Is that like kind of the benchmark?
Yeah.
Probably since there's RPI so low.
What is their RPI actually? That's a good
I
question.
think it's in the 50s.
Them and
LS.
Vandy are kind of in the same spot.
Yeah, LSU's 55 in the RPI. They went up 9 after they swept South Carolina. Vandy, we can talk about Vanderbilt in a second. Yeah, so apparently, I'm Noble guy says Early didn't say much about Nico in the post game. Just kind of like what Tag thought he would say, which is just to be decided. Like we don't know. They probably do have an idea, but they're not going to tell us anything.
Yeah, they're not going to say anything until you have to report the SEC injury report, or if they label him just out, then obviously we would assume that's more severe, but you could very well see game time decision each day, and even if he doesn't play.
Yeah, Vandy's 71 in the RPI, which is really low. They're one game ahead of LSU. They're 10-4, but
Yeah,
they
you can get into
also
that. I think Vandy got swept by Alabama this weekend in Tuscaloosa. A lot of people are up in arms about Tim Corbin's decision to pull Connor Fennell in game one, um, and they ended up losing that game pretty much that inning. They Alabama tied it in game one, um, and didn't really look back the whole
yeah.
rest of the series.
I have a question. So, how many pitches was Weston Moss at today when he was pulled?
Mid to high 70s is my guess.
How many pitches was Connor Fennell at when he got pulled? It's kind of similar.
I would say I think it was a little bit lower.
So what in your so both pitchers, I guess you could say were now Weston was throwing a no hitter and then he got pulled after he gave up a hit. Do you not kind of draw a similar comparison between those two being pulled at that time? Both their teams were ahead. They had just given up a hit and then coaches pulled the plug on them. Do you not think like Weston? Obviously, I think we all agree Connor Fennell should not have been pulled in that moment. Hindsight's 2020. If they had won that game, we wouldn't have been talking about it.
Absolutely.
If we today had lost, now we have Fresh Corn, who we trust obviously a lot to close games. If we had lost the game today after pulling Weston after he gave up his first hit, do you think there would have been a similar kind of freak out reaction to early pulling Weston that early?
Yes. That is, yeah, yes.
Yeah, I agree. So, I mean, what do you think the difference was? Like, uh,
I think for Alabama's case, went and rewatched that game. They had been even their outs were hard hit. Like they were barreling the baseball towards their second, third time seeing him, and I think they were right at top of the order coming up either their third or fourth time through the lineup. I believe third, but like when you've seen a pitcher going on your fourth time and you're as talented as these hitters are, like LeBron and Reese Hines and all these guys, like maybe it was time to go to the bullpen, but once again, it's all hindsight 2020. Like if they win that game, if they don't walk the next batter on four pitches and then give up the home run, like we're not talking about it.
it's a good. Oh, go Dalen. Were you going to say something? Okay. So the final SEC series that took place today, Arkansas walked off Ole Miss. Um, Crazy finish. I watched the end of that one after. So it was a walk off. It was a walk off solo homer. Um, and you get to play Ole Miss this weekend. So Ole Miss and A&M are both coming off of a series loss. Arkansas is now 13-11 in the conference. I'll look at who they finish with. I don't. Do you remember we were talking about that earlier, Tag?
No, I do not remember that, but like I see Noble Guy in here said that he's disappointed we don't get to play Kentucky. I know Kentucky's not great, but that's a scary series no matter when you play them, who's
Yeah.
on that roster. I'm completely fine not playing Kentucky this year.
You would want to play more of like a South Carolina. Add that team to your schedule. Okay, yeah, Arkansas they get another home series, so they have Oklahoma at home. So Arkansas could very well be a host.
hmm
I
Yeah,
don't know if
they're
that's where they're
definitely
at right
talented
now.
enough to make it a regional, and it's always it's Dave Van Horn. They're going to be good, but it's will they will they finish it? Unlike last year.
Um, I mean that's kind of it for the series this week. I would expect pretty much in terms of postseason, like pretty much every SEC team except for what Missouri, South Carolina, LSU, and then Vandy, Kentucky, and Tennessee. Like those guys are kind of you're not sure. Everybody else, I would expect to make the tournament, and then you're gonna have one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, or eight hosts in this conference.
Yeah, it's the we were talking about this at dinner, but like the Oregon states, the coastal Carolinas, their RPI is just not what these SEC teams RPI is. I'm pretty positive. So you will likely see more hosts than expected in these rankings right now. Um, so I'm just curious to see on Selection Sunday where they do place Oregon State and Coastal Carolina and like a Southern Miss in this category because obviously what is it, the Sun Belt and the Conference USA is not as talented. There's still a good baseball conference, but not as good as this conference. And so I would even put some degree the top half of the Big Ten.
Yeah. Looking at the RPI, obviously UCLA has been sitting at 1 pretty much the entire season. Georgia Tech is at 2, and then you have 3 SEC teams. Then you have 2 ACC teams. So North Carolina is at 6, and Florida State's at 7, and then you have USC at 10. Southern Miss is at 11. Oregon State, who we talked about, is at 15. Coastal Carolina, who just lost today,
Yeah, they
maybe.
lost to Georgia Southern today.
Yeah, so they're sitting at 17. Um, but yeah, I mean, I don't. It's all the SEC. That's all I have to say. It's all SEC. Noble guy, what do you say? Early has gotten good about pulling pitchers at the right time. Very advanced coaching. Great step for him from last year and earlier this season. Yeah, I think you saw at what was it? Mizzou. Yeah,
Missouri.
when I would say was probably the one decision. Maybe you guys could think of more if I'm wrong, but um, that was the one decision where you really felt like, man, I don't know if Shane should have been in the game that long. He gave up 6 consecutive hits before he was finally pulled, and Mizzou cut that to a one-run game, I think.
Yeah, they did, and it made everything stressful in that scenario. And you can definitely see people are asking why was he pulled. Like I think a lot of people were curious of why Weston was pulled last week at Florida when he was pulled. But he's learning on the fly when he thinks it's best to pull these pitchers. And as gaining coaching experience in real time, he's thrived. I mean, I would say he's thrived in it because last week at Florida when he pulled him and everyone, I mean, a lot of people were like, "Why is he pulling him?" Gavin Lyons looked really good, and then you finished the game off strong, and it's been a very good strong. Like the results have been great since Missouri on when pulling pitchers.
And when you talk about like pulling a pitcher and what that looks like in hindsight, if you pull the pitcher and he's doing well and the reliever comes in and whatever happened and what happens in that first game of Vandy and Alabama, and if that happens, then it looks like the worst decision in the world. But if you pull Weston like you did today, and then you're able to close out the game, nobody's going to talk about it. And it still might have been the wrong decision, but you still win the game. So people are only going to freak out about it if it loses you the game. But yeah, I would agree. Like Early's gotten much better at kind of managing pitchers and learning when it's time. Um, okay, and then I feel like we've kind of touched on everything we wanted to talk about. We have one more comment, so we can read that before we get out of here. But do you guys have anything else?
No, other than it was like a very enjoyable weekend after game one. Like great weather, great weekend, great atmosphere. And that'll continue as time comes on. Like we're getting to the stretch of where baseball in this conference and in college baseball alone is perfect. Like it's you're getting to the nitty gritty of who's going to host, who's going to be a national seed, and it's just a great time.
And then yeah, so Noble guys, one more comment before we get out of here. A&M hosting Nebraska with Will Boat and Rob Childress would be absolute cinema. Mixed emotions. Yes, Rob Childress returning to Olson. I'm a fan. Why not? That'd be dramatic. That'd be fun.
However, these projections are going to change after what
Yeah. Oh
everything
yeah.
that displayed this weekend. So
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Do you guys have anything else? Perfect. Thank you guys. We will see you at Olson on Tuesday, and then we will be back here to chat about Ole Miss Wednesday night. So yeah. Bye everybody.